Welcoming Ukrainian refugees, 13 stories that will renew your faith in humanity. Instead of waiting to figure out the right way to help, these people are leaping into action to help Ukrainian refugees in the most beautiful ways.
Every second, a Ukrainian child becomes a refugee.
Over 3 million people have fled Ukraine since Russia's invasion began. The majority of Ukrainian refugees are women and children, and they're part of what the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees is calling the fastest growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. Every second, one more Ukrainian child becomes a refugee of the Ukraine-Russia war, the organization reports. Nearly 2 million of these Ukrainian refugees have gone to nearby Poland. Hungary, Slovakia, Moldova, and Romania have also taken in large numbers of people fleeing the war. Meanwhile, Europe is offering to take in more, and President Biden officially announced that the United States will welcome Ukrainian refugees with open arms. People all over the world have been doing extraordinary things, big and small, to aid, comfort, and protect Ukrainian refugees. War brings out the worst in people, but it also provides an incredible opportunity to showcase the best of humanity. We've rounded up some of the most heartwarming stories of how people are welcoming Ukrainian refugees and how you can help Ukraine right now. An American man finds shelter for families fleeing with pets. American Aaron Jackson didn't go to the Poland-Ukraine border with the intention of helping refugee families with pets, but the animal lover, and founder of the nonprofit Planning Peace, quickly found his calling. He was speaking with the director of an animal shelter when a family with a Cocker Spaniel approached. The director explained that they were Ukrainian refugees who wanted to give their dog to the shelter because they were homeless and didn't want their dog to be out in the cold. Jackson leapt into action, and within 20 minutes, he'd found the family pet-friendly housing that would take them and pup Bella. You have these families who have traveled 100 miles, 200 miles, to get to the border, and they've walked 50 of those miles with a dog on their back, Jackson told the Dodo. So if a person is willing to do that for their dog, I'm going to try to do anything in my power to get them into housing with their pet, especially since they've already given up so much already. A German family welcomes a Ukrainian family, no questions asked. Distance was no obstacle for Karsten, a German man who drove 11 hours from Frankfurt to the Polish border with one goal in mind: find a family of Ukrainian refugees to help. He held up a simple sign offering transfer and accommodation, and within an hour was bringing Bulia Muhammad and her children to his home. We have watched what's happening. We have seen the pictures on TV, my daughter and me, and we said, this is so horrible. We want to make a small contribution, however small it may be, he told the national news. But we believe it could make a difference. Chefs provide meals at the Ukrainian border. As soon as Spanish-American chef José Andrés saw the news about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, he jumped into action, loading trucks full of food. He had previously set up his charity organization, World Central Kitchen, for exactly this type of situation. He and his team of chefs and volunteers bring meals to survivors of all types of disasters, both natural and man-made. We are supporting Ukrainian refugees along the border and in Warsaw, Krakow, and other cities. We will be next to them as long as we are needed. His Twitter bio sums up his stance and offers advice for other would-be do-gooders. We all are citizens of the world. What's good for you must be good for all. If you are lost, share a plate of food with a stranger, you will find who you are. A stranger safely delivers 2 young refugee children to safety. A Ukrainian father was desperate to find a way to get his 2 children across the border to safety, but he was unable to leave the country himself. Men are required to stay and fight. His prayers were answered through Natalia Abelieva. Their father simply handed over the 2 kids to me, and trusted me, giving me their passports to bring them over, Abelieva told Reuters. They were strangers, but as a mother, Abel understood the man's heartbreak and immediately agreed, taking care of the children in Poland until their mother arrived. It's just one more example of Ukrainian mothers, sisters, and wives showing strength and courage in the face of tragedy. A woman helps rescue a Ukrainian family whose grandmother saved her grandmother from the Holocaust. Fanya Base survived the Holocaust because Maria Blishchik hid the young Jewish girl in Ukraine. Both women have since passed away, but the heroic act created a lifelong bond between their families. So when Blishchik's two granddaughters fled Ukraine, Base's granddaughter arranged for their safe passage and welcomed them with open arms to her home in Israel. Base's granddaughter told Israel's Channel 13 that she had visited her grandmother's grave to ask for intervention from above to make sure the rescue was a success. Polish mothers provide strollers for fleeing Ukrainian mothers with tiny tots. Pictures of abandoned strollers left in the mud by fleeing refugees are a stark reminder of just how dear the situation is for Ukrainian women and children, many still young enough to need to be carried in their mother's arms. This adds one more layer of exhaustion for the women, who often have left their homes with nothing but the clothes they are wearing. Recognizing a unique need, Polish mothers have been leaving strollers on train platforms and at border crossings to make things just a little bit easier for the refugees. It's the sort of small act of charity and comfort that mothers so selflessly provide, no matter their nationality. Italian children greet new Ukrainian classmates with cheers and hugs. Walking into a new school is nerve-wracking in the best circumstances, but when you've lost everything and had to relocate to a different country, it's downright terrifying. To help allay anxiety, Italian kids welcomed Ukrainian refugee classmates with clapping, cheering, singing, signs, and hugs. The viral video shows the two kids stepping nervously into the school only to be overwhelmed by the amazing welcome. Children make up a large portion of Ukrainian refugees, and an unknown number are unaccompanied, leaving them vulnerable to atrocities that violate basic human rights. Missionaries volunteer as free translators. Missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as Mormons, may be best known for knocking on doors in suits and ties. But the multinational missionaries have another talent, speaking many languages, including Ukrainian. As soon as they heard about the Ukraine-Russian war, European missionaries jumped in, volunteering as translators and guides at train stations and border crossings. There, they hold up large signs showing the languages they speak and what they can do to help incoming refugees get oriented and connected with resources. A German school opens additional classes just for Ukrainian children. The Waldorf Elementary School in Chemnitz, Germany, has welcomed so many refugee children that it decided to create 2 new classes just for the Ukrainian students. They still share activities and meals with their German classmates, but this allows them to learn under Ukrainian teachers and stay close to their community. We wanted the children to be able to quickly enter into a certain normality, to feel welcome here in this foreign country, the director of the school said in a video. In doing so, they're showing kids that acts of kindness can make the world a better place. A Polish town sacrifices to take in more refugees. Medyka, a small Polish town near the Ukraine border, has become the largest crossing for refugees fleeing the violence. Even though the townspeople have little themselves, they are determined to welcome as many Ukrainian refugees as need help and share whatever they have, proving even small acts of kindness make a difference. They've started by converting their town recreational center into a temporary hotel, holding 250 beds. These refugees have lost almost everything. We need to help them. Even if that means we'll have to learn to live with less, Town Mayor Marek Iwasiecko told the UN Refugee Agency. Germans open their homes to fleeing families. The biggest and most immediate need for Ukrainian refugees is finding somewhere safe to go. Thousands of Germans have heard that plea and rushed to the border to offer shelter. It wasn't an organized effort, Just something that so many people had felt in their hearts they needed to do. To overcome the language barrier, they made simple signs. Big room. 3 people. Children welcome 2. For as long as you want. And another, 2 adults, 3 children home. Just as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is redefining leadership, everyday people around the world are redefining what it means to be human in a 21st century war. Romanian teens set up a coffee and food stand at the border. So far, Romania has taken in just under 100,000 refugees from Ukraine. To help them feel welcome, a group of Romanian youth in the border town of Siret have set up a stand offering hot drinks and meals. The group, whose name roughly translates to Association for Tomorrow's Generation, has been working non-stop to keep the little stand up and running despite freezing conditions. It may seem like a small thing compared to some of the larger charity operations, but for those refugees, a warm drink and a smile mean everything. Teens are doing great things all over the world. The entire city of Oslo, Norway, lights up to welcome Ukrainian refugees. Ukrainian refugees who find their way to Norway, about a 33-hour trip, will receive a warm welcome. Signs in airports and train stations read in Ukrainian that anyone who wants to flee to Oslo will get a free ticket there. When they arrive, they'll see City Hall and other public buildings lit in yellow and blue. Oslo is serious about keeping its spot as one of the safest places to travel. The city has donated 10 mil NOK, Norwegian krone, to humanitarian aid and prepares to welcome refugees, the city leaders tweeted.